Hi, and welcome to English 2332, Week 3. Just a quick video reminder of how the semester is going. A quick check-in and check-up if you want. Obviously, I post up a lot of information. And do you need to look at all of it? Yes, you do. But some of it's going to be more important than other parts, which you'll discover once you've taken the test. One of the parts which is more important is that PowerPoint called the Ancient Period. And it's all about the Hebrews, the Greeks, and the Romans, and there are specific slides which are going to be more relevant. Those are the tableaus, the pictures of each culture and how they are different. So be sure that you reviewed that a couple of times. Print out the notes section if you want to. Take some handwritten notes would be very helpful. But I do encourage you to pay special attention to that PowerPoint. Now, they're all important, just that some are more important than others. So the other thing I want to talk to you about is the Hebrew people. We've been talking about, or this week we're talking about the Hebrew Bible, specifically the books of Genesis and Job and Psalms. And the thing that you need to remember, or the thing which is very significant, is the fact that the Hebrews, who were a nomadic people, means they moved around a lot. They followed herds of animals, generally goats. But most often, there were a lot of nomadic people in the ancient world, but very few of them left any literature at all. Nomadic people tend not to be a literary people. But not only did the Hebrews leave a lasting legacy of writing, but they wrote really great literature. One of the reasons we study the Hebrew Bible is because of its impact on all the other literature that's come ever since. From Shakespeare to your favorite modern poet to, literally anyone who's written anything since the Bible was written down has been influenced by the Bible. It's just been this huge avalanche of influence on literature. Whether you believe in the Bible or not, whether you're atheist, agnostic, Christian, the Bible influences literature and has since it was written down. This is unique. I would encourage you to do a little bit of research on the Hebrews. They were originally artisans and craftsmen, very skilled people who were recruited by the powers in Egypt to work on their great monuments and temples and pyramids and statues, and then became enslaved and were enslaved for 400 years. They came from different cultures originally, and then they became enslaved by the Egyptians, by the pharaohs, and then were miraculously freed. Actually, a series of miracles. And so, when you think about who they are, where they came from, what they did for a living, it makes the writing seem even more powerful and impactful. But and Jewish culture still influences the world today. The Jewish people are a relatively small group. The nation of Israel is very small, but they have a disproportionately large impact on the world in which we live. So pay attention to the literature as you read the book of Genesis, the reading selections from Genesis, the book of Job, which is not a very long book. You're probably familiar with the story, but there's lots of good details in there. And the fact that the book of Job is in the Bible at all is a bit of an anomaly. It's kind of surprising because Job really does question basic Hebraic thought. It asks the question, why do good people suffer? Job is the greatest man in the East, according to the book, and yet he suffers unimaginably. And so, and when Job goes to God and say, dude, what did I do? Why am I going through all of this? God answered him and he said, I could explain it to you, but you couldn't understand it. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Can you catch a Leviathan on a hook? He basically says, I could tell you, but you couldn't understand it. So it's not really so much an attempt to explain suffering, more an attempt to explain the fact that people do suffer, and often that suffering has nothing to do with our actions. We don't do anything to deserve suffering, because it was a very common Jewish belief that only sinful people suffered, and that if you were suffering, you were sinful, or your parents, or your grandparents, since sins are visited unto the seventh generation according to Scripture. And that's what his friends tell him. You know, you're suffering because of this reason or that reason. They're trying to give very human explanations, and he doesn't buy it. So anyway, read the book of Job, read the Psalms, and read the Psalms not so much for content as for organization. We're looking at how the Psalms are organized, what types of Psalms are. And if you do any extracurricular research, you're going to find that there are lots of different ways to organize the Psalms from the book of Psalms. I've given you, I think, 5, just real basic ones: Thanksgiving, Lament, Praise, Royal Psalms, Kingly Psalms, and there may be one more, but that's really about it, just 4 or 5. But we're just looking at how they get organized. And the structure. Of course, we talk about Hebrew poetry, and it's not Robert Frost. We're not talking iambic pentameter or rhyming couplets, anything like that. We're talking about thought poetry. So they're more worried about the idea being expressed rather than the way the idea is expressed, which is how we define poetry in our culture. But anyway, look through those, read through those. I've tried to choose the shorter reading assignments so that you can have a chance to read through it several times. And again, let me encourage you, print some of these out. To me, it's always really easier to read a piece of paper than to read on a screen, especially if you're trying to do it on your cell phone, which I do not recommend. But yeah, print them out, highlight them, go through them, take notes, write stuff in the margins, engage with the material is the way we like to say it. But it really is quite rewarding when you get into the beauty of the language and, yeah, comparison of cultures. Okay, one other thing. And this has come up a couple of times already. On both the discussion and the writing assignments, I will never give a 0 without an explanation. I've had a couple of students email me and ask, Mr. Fallon, why did I get a 0 in this? And I have to reply, I don't know. What did it say under the instructor comments? Now, on discussions, there's really only 2 reasons why you would get a 0. Either it doesn't answer the question, or it's short. Most often it's short. So go back to your original post, and then off to the right hand side there should be a thing that says instructor comments. Click on that and I will explain to you why you got a 0. But be sure that you understand about the discussion posts. The discussion posts, they're only worth 10 points apiece out of a 1,000-point semester. Literally 1/100th of your semester average is what each post is worth. So I encourage you to do them. Obviously, you want to do your discussion posts, but don't get hung up over 1 or 2. Now, don't forget that these things will add up, and they do add up to about a total of 200 points. We're doing 20 of them, so don't blow them off entirely, but don't expend too much energy worrying about each one separately. Much better to focus on the quizzes or the response papers, which are worth a lot more, and of course they're more worthy of your time and your energy. But yeah, no 0s without an explanation. All right, if you have any other questions, drop me an email, jfly@southplains.college.edu, and I look forward to hearing from you. Have a great week.